on ABC TV and ABC iView.
Today, 2 people killed in storms across eastern Australia, with authorities warning the wild weather is not over yet. Also ahead, Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny found in one of Russia's toughest prisons. A dramatic start to the Sydney to Hobart yacht race with a close call between 2 super maxi yachts. And the Boxing Day test resumes after rain stops play at the MCG for almost 3 hours. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Kamin Gock. We'll have more on those top stories in just a moment, but first, in breaking news, emergency services are searching for 2 people missing in floodwaters in north of Queensland's Sunshine Coast. It's understood 3 people were in a large drain that washes out into the Mary River in Gympie when the area was inundated with water. A spokesperson for the Queensland Ambulance Service confirmed 1 patient is in their 40s, was being treated with head injuries. Police and Swift Water Rescue are searching for 2 people who remain unaccounted for. 2 people have been killed in storms as severe weather continues to lash much of the east coast. Victoria Police say it's believed a tree branch fell on a man this morning at a private property in the Gippsland region. Emergency services provided medical treatment, but the man, who is yet to be formally identified, died at the scene. While in Queensland, severe weather claimed another life after a 59-year-old woman was hit by a falling tree on the Gold Coast. 28 rescues were carried out across the southeast, and there were about 350 calls for help. In New South Wales, more than 50 properties have been damaged by hail in the Hunter Valley. A storm cell swept through the region just after 1:30 this afternoon, with hailstones around 4 centimetres in size reported at Rutherford. Earlier, the state's SES carried out 6 rescues and responded to 471 requests for help, mainly for broken roofs and fallen power lines.
There is also a chance that as we move into this evening, those storms may form up on the northeast and northern rivers area of the state, and also the Illawarra and the south coast again, along with metropolitan Sydney as well. So we do ask people when they're out and about to avoid driving through floodwater. Do not drive, walk or play in it. If you are caught out in a severe storm, just to wait for the storm to pass if you can. Pull over where it's safe to do so. Preferably don't park under trees, because you do find that with these severe thunderstorms, you do see strong winds and there is a risk of branches or trees being blown over.
Further south, Victoria has recorded one of its wettest Christmas days, with severe weather cutting off power to thousands of homes. While homes in Queensland are still without power as Energex crews try to get the region back on the grid. Reporter Mackenzie Colohan has more from the Gold Coast.
Well, Gold Coast residents are calling this the worst storm in decades. So powerful, it's ripped the entire roof off this family's home in the suburb of Pacific Pines. And if you follow me, the living room's a mess. And the roof has ended up across the road and on top of their neighbour, Jeff and Helen's house across the road. Tragically, the supercell claimed the life of a 59-year-old woman who was driving when a tree came down on top of her car at Helensvale, not far from here. At least 6 other people across the southeast were taken to hospital with injuries after trees came down in their homes and caravans. It didn't last long, but it was intense, doing an extraordinary amount of damage in a relatively short amount of time. There were wind gusts of up to 160 kilometres per hour and 200,000 lightning strikes recorded, bringing down 500 power lines and cutting electricity to 125,000 homes and businesses. Energex crews are now working around the clock to get people back online, but it's causing chaos on the coast, with phone towers and traffic lights disabled during the busiest time of year. Emergency services, police, SES, paramedics and firefighters had hundreds of calls for assistance between them. Trees were uprooted, fences, trampolines and outdoor furniture were blown away. Ceilings have been caving in under the weight of the water and the rain, and a crane at a beachfront construction site in Burleigh Heads was bent in half. Popular theme parks, Dreamworld, Movie World, Wet n Wild and nearby Topgolf have all been forced to close. The damage bill is going to be huge and the clean-up is going to take days, if not weeks. The message from emergency services is to be patient as crews work to clear the debris and restore power, and stay indoors and off the road if possible. Unfortunately, for so many people like Michael, the owner of this home, whose properties have been so badly damaged, they're away on Christmas holidays and won't be home for days before they can do anything about it.
Weather warnings are in place for much of the east of the country. Angus Hines from the Bureau of Meteorology says storms are set to ease over the coming days.
The stormy outbreak does continue into tomorrow, Wednesday the 27th of December, particularly around eastern Victoria, far southeastern New South Wales, as well as southeastern Queensland. There's a chance that particularly as we get towards the second half of the day tomorrow, we'll start to see some of that activity subside and move out over the water. So for many places, maybe lunchtime and early afternoon on Wednesday is probably the peak threat risk for further thunderstorms. Then as we push into the back half of the week, we continue to see a gradual easing trend to the severe weather. There will still be isolated showers and the possibility of one or two thunderstorms here or there dotted around the eastern half of the country, but much less extensive and less severe compared to where we've been over the past few afternoons. We are in El Nino, we are still in El Nino, and the thing about El Nino is the impacts of an El Nino on the country really shake out when you look over the course of months and seasons. When you look over the course of a 6-month span during El Nino, you will see large parts of the country that get drier than average weather. But that doesn't mean that every day, every week, or even every month is dry during an El Nino. It's not uncommon in an El Nino year to still get a wet week or a wet month, and we've certainly had frequent stormy outbreaks over about the last month since towards the end of November right through until Christmas. And that has given some parts of the country above average rainfall over the last month, but that's not uncommon during El Nino. When we look at back over the past 6 months, we will see many places drier than normal, including the driest 3-month period ever across Australia through earlier months of the year. So a little bit of rain over the course of a week or a month through El Nino, not uncommon, but we do expect to see overall drier conditions.
A search is underway for a missing swimmer at the recently opened Penrith Beach in Sydney's west. Police say a man was seen going into the water at around 2:30 this afternoon but failed to resurface. Police divers are at the scene to help with the search. The man-made beach on Penrith Lakes was open to the public only last Tuesday. A teenager in New South Wales has had a lucky escape after being bitten by a shark while surfing on Christmas Day. Julian McLennan suffered the bite to his upper leg while surfing at Old Bar near Taree on the mid-north coast. He suffered puncture wounds to his upper thigh along with his surfboard, but says he was lucky to come out of the water relatively unscathed.
I was sitting at the back surfing, going over a wave, and I just feel something grab me. I look to the right, I just see a massive fin coming out of the water and like its body of a shark. I just see it, I start paddling in. I have no clue if I have a leg still, and I'm just looking at Alex and I'm just freaking out. I paddle in, I get to the shore, I tourniquet up my leg and just, you know, quickly go to the hospital. Just make sure you're with someone, like make sure there's someone at least in the water. Like if I didn't have anyone with me, I could have been a lot worse.
A drunk driver has crashed on Adelaide's Hobart busway overnight, blocking the tracks before allegedly assaulting police. Reporter Charles Bryce has the details.
It was about 8:45 last night that emergency crews were called here to the Tea Tree Plaza Hobart interchange. That was after a car had driven onto the Hobart tracks and gotten stuck. Now, for anyone outside of South Australia may not know what the Hobart is, but it is a dedicated track for buses for South Australia's public transport network. They are unique to South Australia, the only one of its kind in the country. Unfortunately for commuters, it's not an uncommon occurrence. The driver had his car stuck and sustained quite a bit of damage to that car. It did have to be towed from the tracks. That driver returned a blood alcohol reading of 0.254, so more than 5 times the legal limit. He was taken to the local police station. It was during that commute to the police station where he has allegedly assaulted a female police officer. She has sustained minor facial injuries. The driver, 52-year-old man, he has been charged with drink driving. He's also been charged with aggravated driving without due care and also assaulting police. He has lost his licence for 12 months and he will be facing court in March.
Retailers will be hoping for a Boxing Day boom, with millions of shoppers out looking for a bargain at today's sales. Braving the crowds for us, reporter Bridget MacArthur is in Melbourne.
I've been here since the early hours of this morning. We turned up about 6 a.m. and still plenty of shoppers streaming in for those Boxing Day sales. I'm honestly pretty surprised at how many people we have seen. Clearly online shopping hasn't killed things here at Chadstone in Melbourne southeast, and it's Australia's biggest shopping centre, and still the shoppers here are managing to fill the aisles, fill the 500 shops that are here at this centre in Melbourne. And the shop behind me has had queues lining up for pretty much the whole day since it opened this morning, and one of the shop assistants there was saying it's actually the busiest that they've ever been, which is pretty impressive given a lot of people, I think, are constantly trying to herald the end of Boxing Day sales and that maybe people are moving online. But we've really seen a whole range of people coming out for a range of different reasons. For some, it's their family tradition. Others have said that it's an Australian tradition that they wanted to have a go at. Others, of course, are here with their family and friends. We've had a lot of dads and partners who've driven out their family, their wives and loved ones to do some shopping here, and we've got the famous family and friends section over there where a few people are having a nap, but we did manage to speak to a few people who are a bit more up and about earlier, but about why they wanted to come out and brave the crowds here this morning at Chadstone.
It's my mom's first time come to Australia on Boxing Day, so I just want her to experience Boxing Day for the first time at 6 a.m. I think this year is like way better than Black Friday sale.
What time did you have to get up?
I haven't slept yet.
I've got my little goodie bag, but I'm here as moral support.
And do you do this every year?
Yes.
Back in Malaysia, it's not a public holiday, but in Australia, it's a public holiday where things are on sale and shops open so early. So, yeah, it's something that's interesting for us.
A lot of people might think cost of living pressures, why so many people out shopping, but interestingly retail experts say that this is exactly the time when you do see these sale periods doing really well, and pre-Christmas spending was a bit more subdued, but they were forecasting that Boxing Day sales will be quite popular because in an economic pinch people really are seeking out those discounts and those sales wherever they can.
There's been a dramatic start to the Sydney to Hobart yacht race. Supermaxis Andu, Comanche and Scallywag nearly collided just minutes after the start, prompting a protest. The Weather Bureau is warning crews to expect thunderstorms, lightning and possible hail and erratic winds over today and tomorrow. Reporter Sean Tarrant-Goodwin has more from Sydney.
The starting cannon for the Sydney to Hobart yacht race sounded this afternoon. They're heading down along the southeast coast through some challenging conditions as a band of storms is set to pass right out into their path along the southeast coast, mainly with the worst being expected to be concentrated around Eden. The four Supermaxi yachts were jostling for the best run out of the heads, and they'll be neck and neck down along the coast with Andu Comanche, last year's winner, the favourite to win this year's race. But with those changeable conditions, with those storm cells, it really could be up to anyone. It'll provide a particular challenge for those Supermaxi, those 100-foot yachts with the large sails that are really difficult to manoeuvre with changeable winds. But it'll be all eyes on this race this year as those conditions create some very unpredictable weather as they follow the coast south.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the Israeli army will deepen its fight against Hamas in the coming days. His comments come days after the US Secretary of State said Israel should lower the intensity of its strikes.
Heckled by the families of the hostages, Achshav, now, they chant, a demand for the immediate release of their loved ones. Benjamin Netanyahu reiterates the only way to get them back was to keep fighting, and that this military campaign won't wind down anytime soon.
We won't succeed at releasing all the hostages without military pressure, operational pressure, political pressure. And that is why there's one thing that we will not do. We will not stop fighting.
Mr. Netanyahu was in Gaza speaking to the troops on the ground, some of whom, he said, wanted to keep fighting till the end. The war in Gaza is not close to being over, said the Prime Minister, as the agony of Gazans continues, bearing the brunt and overcome with distress. Pointing to her pain. "It hurts here, Mama," she says. Her mother is trying to console her. Late at night, their homes were bombed. The wounded kept coming to the nearby Al-Aqsa hospital, already overwhelmed, with no fuel or water and minimal supplies. In Gaza, there is no respite for the people or those trying to save them. For many, it was too late. The writing on these body bags says remains of Al-Maghazi. Abdurrahim survived the airstrike. His wife didn't. He says that in his building, several children and displaced people were killed.
Our block was meant to be safe, according to the Israeli military maps. But there are no safe areas in the Gaza Strip.
In a statement to the BBC, the Israeli military said it was looking into the incident, adding that it was committed to taking feasible steps to minimize harm to civilians. As the scale of the devastation becomes clear, so too does the challenge facing rescue teams, who've been struggling to get in with roads blocked after the strike. In Bethlehem, Christmas looks and feels very different. No tourists, no festivities, lots of prayers. This time of year, the eyes of the world would be on the birthplace of Jesus, but it's been stripped of any signs of celebration. Instead, there are messages of solidarity and calls to end the suffering. For the people here, those images of destruction and death coming from Gaza hit very close to home. The pain in Gaza is felt very deeply here. This year, it's replaced what is normally a time of joy.
The wars ravaging Gaza and Ukraine have been the focus of many key Christmas messages and services across the Northern Hemisphere. The Pope used his address to decry the growing number of civilians being killed in the Gaza Strip, while in Ukraine, Orthodox Christians embraced a major change in protest of Russia's invasion.
Coming together for the first time in December. Ukrainians, who are largely Orthodox Christian, are used to celebrating Christmas on January 7. It's another shift away from Russian influence, and many are embracing the change.
Finally, there is a day in Ukraine which my husband and I can spend together in the cathedral.
It's an important moment of spiritual unity in this difficult time of war.
With Christmas celebrations cancelled in Bethlehem because of the Israel-Gaza war, it was a more subdued and sombre affair. The faithful coming out for Mass, congregating at the site they believe Christ was born. The war in Gaza also forefront at the Vatican as Pope Francis delivered his Christmas message.
I plead for an end to the military operations with their appalling harvest of innocent civilian victims.
The pontiff making an impassioned plea for peace.
These children, whose childhood is devastated by war, are the little Jesuses of today. To say yes to the Prince of Peace then means saying no to war.
As millions attended religious events around the globe, the royal family arrived for a morning church service at Sandringham. King Charles continuing a legacy left by his late mother, the Queen. While in Berlin, dozens braved the winter weather for a Christmas Day dip, donning festive attire for a tradition dating back 40 years.
Wonderful, but of course 5 degrees too warm. A bit of ice would be nice.
A Christmas marked around the world with hope for peace ever present. Sammy Clare, ABC News.
Jailed Russian opposition politician Alexei Navalny has been moved to a penal colony in an Arctic region of northern Russia. He'd been missing for 3 weeks, with many fearing he'd met the same fate as many of Vladimir Putin's enemies. The prison he's being held at is ominously known as the Polar Wolf Colony. Most of its prisoners have committed the most serious crimes. Nearly 2,000 kilometres northeast of Moscow in Karp, in the frozen Yamal-Nenets region, it's considered the toughest prison in Russia and is known for its severe winters. Expert in Russian politics, Dr. Alexei Muravyev, says while there's been much attention focused on Mr. Navalny's whereabouts, he doesn't pose a direct political threat to Vladimir Putin.
I don't think it's in the Kremlin's interest or Putin's interest to dispose of him simply because of a number of reasons. Obviously, Navalny continues to generate international news, and our conversation confirms that. So anything that would lead to his physical removal will backfire at Putin, and he's right now in the middle of his election campaign, so he doesn't need that. Secondly, Navalny does not represent any political threat to Putin because A, he is obviously isolated in prison, but also because he is not really any political threat in terms of being able to generate any considerable public support or win considerable votes from the Russian conservative electorate.
Can you provide some context about where he is being held at the moment? Why is it called the Polar Wolf Colony?
Well, I mean, geography plays a role in terms of the location of that particular prison colony, which is around the Arctic Circle, and obviously it's in a remote place, so there is a reference to a wolf that obviously acts alone. So I think it's a bit of a kind of prison sarcasm, or the sarcasm of prison guards that decided to give a pretty cute name to something that is considered to be highly notorious. But a number of Russian high-level security colonies have very interesting names. Like, for example, one of Russia's most notorious prisons have a nickname of Blue Dolphin. So there is always an element to kind of sarcasm attached to it.
So why do you think he was moved to this prison? What do you believe Vladimir Putin was trying to achieve in doing this?
Look, back in early August, he was given 19 years for incitement of extremism because his so-called anti-corruption fund was classified in Russia as a terrorist and extremist organization, and he was charged with extremism, with incitement of violence, with provoking especially underage kids to show civil disobedience. And these are really serious charges. So as a result, he was given a collective sentence of 19 years. That's in addition to 9 years he was given a couple of years ago. And because of that sentence and the severity of the sentence, especially the clauses under which he was charged and sentenced, he was moved to what in the West would be considered to me max security prison. So to me, that's one of the reasons why he was moved to that particular location, because it is designed for those who have to serve time for serious crimes. And obviously the sentence that Navalny was given is considered to be really extreme, because it's only one step away from being described as a sentence under the Terrorism Act.
Do you think a part of this is linked to some political motivation? You mentioned the upcoming presidential election.
Oh, without a doubt. I think Putin is using Navalny as a showcase of what will happen to those who try to create some problems, especially with regards to street protests, because Navalny made his name in two ways. One is he promoted himself as the fighter against Russian corruption. He made lots of videos and he became incredibly popular on YouTube with his investigations about, say, Putin's alleged wealth or corruption inside the Kremlin and so on and so forth. But certainly he is the one that managed to capture considerable parts of Russian youth, also because of his age, of his charisma, and his ability to talk to the masses, something that the majority of Russian liberal opposition leaders failed to do over many, many years. Even though he doesn't represent any, as I said before, any political threat to Kremlin or Putin's ratings or chances of him being re-elected in March, Putin certainly wants to use Navalny as a showcase. This is what will happen to you if you'll try to cause mischief. And the fact that Navalny was detained and given one sentence, that was given another sentence upon the completion of the first sentence, and now he's been given even more serious sentence. It's almost like, I wouldn't call it a circus, but certainly a way how you turn something into a political satire. So the message is very simple. We'll keep this person locked behind bars for as long as we want, and now he's been given a collective time of 28 years, and unless he will start behaving appropriately, he will spend the time behind the bars also as a warning to everyone else who wants to simply, stir up the domestic situation inside Russia.
And what happens to Navalny now? Obviously, people have spruiked some concerns for his well-being being placed in one of these toughest prisons, but do you think he'll remain there for the remainder of his sentence, or do you think the supporters reaching out and arguing for him to be moved elsewhere will fall on deaf ears?
Well, I think you answered your own question. Yes, there's not going to be any change of his treatment simply because supporters may try to influence Russian political or ruling elites. Putin may issue some sort of a pardon by either reducing the time or moving him into some other prison, but Navalny still can communicate with the outside world. He can continue to release written statements, and some of them continue to show his defiance. So he is isolated, but he has not been silenced or completely cut off from communication with his followers and supporters. And as far as I understand, he is still treated reasonably well, given the harshness of the sentence and the conditions inside that notorious colony. And again, I think it's also driven by what I described before, the desire not just to keep him alive, but also not to create a sensation out of whatever mischief Navalny may end up having, because it was certainly something that I think the Kremlin learned a lot from the poisoning of him back in 2020, and what sort of international news and what sort of negativity generated back then. So I think Putin, whilst want to keep him locked away, and as an example, that's what will happen to you if you misbehave, would also want to keep him alive, very much alive, and certainly in good state. So no criticism will come towards him from causing any harm to Navalny or his health or his life.
Taking a look at the satellite, clouds spinning over the southeast with a low and trough causing showers and storms with some intensity, while patchy areas of cloud with thunderstorms are present about the top end. Other troughs are leading to showers and storms over eastern New South Wales, Queensland and Western Australia. Taking a look around the states for tomorrow. In Queensland, scattered showers and storms over the east and north of the state, with damaging winds and large hail possible in eastern districts south of Bowen. For New South Wales, showers and thunderstorms across the southeast, possibly severe along the south coast and the ACT. Showers in parts of Victoria South with a mostly sunny and warm day expected in the northwest. And in Tasmania, showers expected across the north, warm with a late shower in the south. For South Australia, sunny and hot in the state's west and north, mostly cloudy in the southeast. And in Western Australia, showers and thunderstorms over the Kimberley with a warm day expected in the north, milder temperatures forecast for the south. In the Northern Territory, very warm across the top end and Arnhem, mostly sunny across the interior. Looking around the country for Thursday, Brisbane sunny, Sydney sunny, Canberra partly cloudy and Melbourne cloudy with a possible shower, Hobart a shower or two, Adelaide showers and the chance of a storm, Perth mostly sunny, Darwin a shower or two with a top of 35. Here are the top stories on ABC News. 2 people have been killed by fallen trees as severe storms continue to menace the country's east. A man in Victoria died this morning, while a 59-year-old woman was killed during a storm last night on the Gold Coast. The Weather Bureau has been warning of more wild weather in south-east Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria. Jailed Russian opposition politician Alexei Navalny has been located in an Arctic penal colony in northern Russia. The 47-year-old's team had lost contact with him 3 weeks ago after he was moved from a previous prison much closer to Moscow. Mr. Navalny is serving a 19-year sentence on charges of extremism, which he's rejected as politically motivated. The annual Sydney to Hobart yacht race is now underway with more than 100 boats competing this year. Supermaxis Andu Comanche and Scallywag nearly collided just minutes after the start, prompting a protest. The Weather Bureau is warning crews to expect thunderstorms, lightning and possible hail and erratic winds over today and tomorrow. And play has resumed after a lengthy rain delay at the Boxing Day test against Pakistan at the MCG. Marnus Labuschagne and Steve Smith are at the crease after Usman Khawaja was caught out on 42 runs. Opener David Warne was dismissed just before lunch on 38. And to some breaking news now. The body of a man has been located following a search at Penrith Beach. Earlier this afternoon, emergency services were called to the beach after a man failed to resurface. The man is believed to be aged in his 30s and is yet to be formally identified. An emergency warning has been issued for a bushfire burning in Kumalbaja, about 60 kilometres west of Esperance. The fire is bounded by Beltana Road to the east, Ashdale Road to the north and west, Sears Road to the west and the South Coast Highway. Tune into ABC Local Radio for the latest information or head to the ABC Emergency website. Australian summers can sometimes involve bushfires, floods and cyclones. And for families, it can be hard to know how to help children cope. Experts say kids are vulnerable to the emotional impacts of natural disasters, and one of the best ways to help build resilience is to listen and talk to them.
With a hot summer forecast and surrounded by the bushland of the Blue Mountains, the weather and climate is front of mind at Blaxland Preschool.
What do you know about your bushfire plan?
Over near the fridge.
Children do pick up a lot of what's happening around them. They might be seeing things on the news, they're hearing the conversations.
The Black Summer fires are still fresh in the minds of the Blaxland community.
It was very confronting for a lot of families. Everybody was very hyper aware, so children would have been exposed to a lot of that.
To help children feel assured, teachers say it's important to maintain relationships and listen to their ideas.
So when they do bring things up, we can respond to their questions and to their concerns, make sure that they feel safe.
Michelle Roberts is a child psychologist specialising in child and adolescent trauma.
You can have the open conversations, which was the first obvious thing.
But it was also important to factor in a child's developmental level.
Going down the pathway in your own mind, having your plan, all of those sorts of things actually helps you make good decisions in the heat of the moment.
To better support and prepare children for the emergency season, ABC Kids Early Education has launched the Helping Hands Disaster Resilience Early Education Toolkit.
And by particularly over the last 5 years, like if you think of where our preschoolers are up to now, they've lived through big bushfires and pandemic times and big floods, severe storms, etc.
The free curriculum planning resource was created in partnership with the Australian Institute for Disaster Resilience and includes material from the Red Cross, Emerging Minds and the ABC.
So what this toolkit helps to do is to put everything under one easily accessible umbrella.
For now, the children at Blaxland Preschool continue to work on their bushfire plans to stay bushfire ready. Nathan Morris, ABC News.
For one night a month, a burger franchise in Perth is closing its doors to feed people in need. It's a simple initiative homeless organisations say is becoming increasingly necessary.
It looks like business as usual. But as the assembly line of cooks in Perth's grilled restaurant prepare burgers, people who are sleeping rough line the street for a free meal.
I miss a lot of nighttime meals, you know, as
Yeah, which is quite, so it's a need for people, I think.
The initiative started in Melbourne in March last year and was adopted at this CBD restaurant the following month.
So they come in, they order at the till, they choose what they want, they choose their drink, we bring the food out to them. It's a really nice opportunity for them to have a normal dining experience.
Upwards of 300 people are coming through the doors, and the number is only rising.
All you need to do is look out the door and see that the line's wrapped around the building. That shows that the need has significantly increased. So we're seeing people that would never have had to access services before coming for the first time.
The joyous event is highlighting a real growing issue.
It's getting harder and harder every year for everyone. I'd say down the street here, what do you foresee here now? And I just watch it roads.
A lot of people feel isolated and they're not part of the community, and I think the sea changes that for them. Maybe only a little bit, maybe only for some people, but that's all that matters, isn't it?
A small helping hand at a time it's needed most. Grace Burmis, ABC News.
The Boxing Day cricket test is underway at the MCG, and this year it's honouring a legend of the game, Shane Warne, who died last year due to heart problems. Cricket Australia has partnered with the Shane Warne Legacy to raise awareness about heart health. Joel Morrison from Cricket Australia says he hopes it'll prompt people to get themselves checked.
Yeah, well, the initiative started the last Boxing Day test, really, where it was the first Boxing Day without Shane Warne, and it was a really sad time for the cricketing community because Shane's obviously such a larger presence than life in cricket, but also right around the world. And we had a moment last year where we honoured Shane at 350 of that test match, because 350 was his test cap number, and we encouraged fans to bring their floppy white hat along with some zinc cream, which is a look made iconic by Shane. And off the back of the test match, because that resonated so well, we got a phone call from Helen Nolan, who's now the CEO of the Shane Warne Legacy. And the family really wanted to continue the opportunity to honour Shane ongoing, but they had also launched a foundation to honour Shane's memory and raise money for causes that were quite important to him. And that led to the conversation about honouring Shane at this year's Boxing Day test match. And it was great to see so many fans turning up today in their floppy white hat.
And I believe at 350 today as well, everyone's encouraged to tip their hat to Shane. And what about this initiative itself? Are there ways that people can test their heart health at the test today?
They sure can. We definitely saw the fans turn up with their floppy hats and tip their hat at that 350 moment, as you said. But uniquely at the test match this year, we've got 23 heart check machines. And these are the Shane Warne heart checks where fans can take a 4-minute test to have a test of some key indicators for heart health to see how they're travelling, and if there are any risk indicators that are flagged, it then can send the information to the person's GP so you can follow up and make sure that your heart's nice, fit and healthy. And ultimately, it's an initiative that we hope will see save lives by just raising awareness about the importance of heart health. Heart health is one of the biggest killers of people in Australia, and it's a silent killer. It's one of those things that can creep up on you and not even know. So it's a great initiative for the Shane Warne Legacy to raise awareness about heart health and make sure people can get a checkup and then go see their GP.
And is there a goal that Cricket Australia and the Shane Warne Legacy are hoping to achieve over this test?
There is. Obviously a big ground, a lot of people, only 23 machines for this year's test. We're hoping to get around 1,000 tests per day. But I'm pleased to say, as we speak now, there's been just over 1,600 tests today. So great to see so many people getting their hearts checked. And we hope to see that continue in strong numbers over the course of the rest of the test match.
And do you expect this to become synonymous with the Boxing Day test, similar how in Sydney we have the pink test for the McGrath Foundation?
It definitely seems like that might be the case just by sheer virtue of the number of fans who have bought into the initiative and turned up in their floppy white hats and so excited to honour Shane and to jump on those machines in large numbers. So it's got a lot of potential to become an iconic moment moving forward, just like the Jane McGrath Day, as you say.
And, you know, Warne was obviously a legend of the game and, as you said, larger than life kind of character. Is this a way that he'll be remembered beyond the cricket field as well?
Absolutely. He meant so many different things to so many people right through all walks of life, not just sport. And for his legacy to not only carry on through cricket, but to now play a role in hopefully saving people's lives, I think that's just such a wonderful tribute to Shane, given the amount of work he put into philanthropic causes. And it's a great way for the family to continue to honour his legacy.
And just touching on the test today, how do you think the crowd has been, the attendance, comparing Australian and Pakistani fans?
Yeah, we've got just over 62,000 people in the stadium at the moment, which we believe is a really great result given there's been quite a bit of rain around Melbourne, as you would have seen in the last 48 hours. So great turnout today, strong contingent of Pakistani supporters as well. And we're just about to inspect the ground as well to see if we can get a bit more play in today off the back of a couple of rain showers that have passed through.
I was about to ask if the weather's looking to potentially spoil the play, but it might have encouraged people to go do those heart tests.
That's right, and that's one of the great opportunities with the Shane Warne Legacy Partnership was the chance for people to engage in greater numbers than we might have otherwise seen. So never waste an opportunity, and it's great to see fans stick around and get their heart health checked.
The third session of the Boxing Day test at the MCG has resumed following some rain delays. Australia is 3 for 168 against Pakistan. Marnus Labuschagne is unbeaten on 36 and Travis Head is 5 not out. Only moments ago, Steve Smith was caught on 26, while earlier today, openers David Warne and Usman Khawaja were out for 38 and 42 respectively. Pakistan won the toss and elected to bowl first. Before Warner's dismissal, he was dropped on 2 and had a near run out after a collision. Khawaja then fell for 42, with Labuschagne and Smith surviving a testing period for a while. The ICC prevented Khawaja from displaying a peace dove on his bat. He was also stopped from wearing boots in the first test with the message, "All lives are equal." Khawaja instead had the names of his children on his shoes as he accused the sport's governing body of double standards. Mike Hussey and Lynn Larson have been named as the 2 new inductees into the Australian Cricket Hall of Fame. The Lismore-born Larson was an all-rounder and long-term captain of the Australian women's team, playing 15 tests with a batting average of 41 and taking 26 wickets. She also played 49 one-day internationals, making 426 runs and taking 24 wickets. Hussey was a prolific scorer for Australia and Western Australia, making 6,235 test match runs and 5,442 one-day international runs. The man fondly known as Mr Cricket averaged 51.52 and reached 1,000 runs in a world record time of 164 days.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shock, I must admit, but yeah, obviously very grateful, very honoured. And I guess it gives you time to sort of reflect on so many people that have helped you along the way, and there's certainly been so many that I never even dreamed that I'd be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I was just happy to play one test match for Australia, so to be inducted is something I'm very proud of.
That's ABC News for now. And just to recap that emergency warning issued in Western Australia, the fire is bounded by Beltana Road to the east, Ashdale Road to the north and west, Sears Road to the west and the South Coast Highway. If you are in the area, you are in immediate danger and need to act to survive. This bushfire is out of control and threatening lives and homes in the Shire of Esperance. If the way is clear, leave now to a safe place and do not wait. If you cannot leave, you should prepare to shelter in your home and ensure you're in a room with 2 exits and water. It started near the intersection of Ned's Corner Road and Yerratup Road. Tune into ABC Local Radio for the latest information or head to the ABC Emergency website.
One of my favourite things to show my kids is the launch of Apollo 11.
Astronauts report at field